Well, absolutely. And just like fighters, a fighter could be an amazing fighter that produces, wonderful, spectacular knockouts, that wins every fight that they're put in front. They've got a lot of grit, got a lot of determination. But if nobody watches them, they're not going to get paid. This is the money. This is the mindset. This is the mentoring podcast. We are here with Mitch Carlson. Mitch, man, we found in our preamble, we have so many darn things in common that I think we were talking for about two and a half hours about fighting, about business, about media, and the list goes on, my friend.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Absolutely. Well, Mitch, so one of the things that I find when we were chatting is your history in the martial arts is actually pretty prolific. And the connections that you have are with some pretty amazing people.
Yeah, I was my first, I think I shared this in the show. The first man I met of martial arts that got me involved in judo when I was 10 years old, a man named Gene LaBelle, who was legendary in the judo field, was dating my mother. And he came over to the house one time when I was 10, and he said, and he looked at me, and this was the 70s, and I had long hair to here, to my shoulders, which was the style back then. And he said, "Boy, you look like a little girl." And he grabbed my hair just with one hand and pulled me. And this guy had vice grip hands. And he said, "Go get me the phone book." So I went to go get the Pacific Bell phone book, which is this thick, probably 8 inches thick of paper, that thin paper, but still it was a thick book where all the phone numbers were, yellow pages. That's how we advertised way before the internet. And I went and grabbed it and took it, and he took it in his hands and he ripped it in half. And let me tell you, you've got to be one strong individual to do that. To rip it in half in front of me, he said, "This is what I'm going to do to your neck if I come back here and your hair's not cut." Scared the dickens out of me. This guy was hulking, strong, intimidating, ugly. Gene was not handsome, and looked at me, this face, and with the intense stare, and he said, "And you're going to judo class starting, next week." So at LA City College is where he taught judo. I lived with my mother in West Hollywood at that time, and it wasn't too far, so she would take me and drop me off at judo class with Gene LaBelle. So I did that for, I don't remember how many months. I studied judo, and I learned how to roll and grapple a little bit and choke, throw. And it was a great introduction to the martial arts. And then we moved, so my judo lessons stopped. But I'll never forget Gene LaBelle. I guess they stopped dating. I don't know.
Gene, I think the world will never forget Gene LaBelle. That person, anybody in any bit of martial arts knows Gene LaBelle. He just left a mark everywhere.
Well, and also then later when I started with striking arts, I started with Taekwondo, and I went to the Chuck Norris Karate School system, which I went to 4 years later is when I started. After I had gone through judo, then I didn't study any martial arts. Then in 1974, from that point forward was when I got into it, and I found my way with Taekwondo. Aerial kicking, the beauty of the forms, it all appealed to me. I didn't enjoy grappling so much. I wrestled 1 year in high school. I did it. I know how to wrestle at a very basic level. I don't enjoy it. But striking, punching, kicking, all of that movement, loved it, fell in love with the arts. Chuck Norris, after I was there, sold the school to my eventual Taekwondo black belt instructor, a man named Jun Chong, Master Jun Chong. And I got my first black belt from him in Taekwondo, then Hapkido, and then later studied with a man in Kyokushin karate, which is a Japanese style, very hard style under the Masoyama system. So I learned some lifelong skills and strategies and basically discipline. And that's what I would say. You don't give up. You don't give up in life. You continue all the way to the end. And it set the stage for my life, I would have to say, the martial arts.
One thing I find about martial arts that they really crosses over is the idea, what it demonstrates to you is there's so much creativity in following systems. Because when you look at the karate or you look at taekwondo, you look at MMA, you
Mhm.
look at Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, there's always a system to follow. There's always techniques, there's always combos, evasions, setups, traps. There's all these systems that you have. And then the creativity comes is how you package those systems together and then just, implement them in reaction or in prediction against your opponent. And I think the creativity that comes out of systems is the one thing that teaches the most.
Absolutely. And it's foundational. If you're following a proven system, if you want to tweak the system, fine, but learn the system to begin with. Work with what has worked before. Follow the program. You can change later, but get to at least the black belt level before you start making tweaks.
And that applies certainly in martial arts, but I think that also applies in business. Is there's a lot of times people come in for a coaching system, and the first thing they want to do is tell you how it all got wrong. They want to tell you what they know better, and well, that I think is appropriate at a specific time as you're entering it. Just follow the system. I mean, that's what you signed up for. If you sign up for that coaching plan, or you sign up for that accounting plan, or that system to say get on television, for example, you sign up for those programs. Just follow the system. Let the system do the work, and then once you're into that, then that's when you can start to make it your own. After you've been in the system for enough time that you've actually indoctrinated into the process.
Sure. Makes sense.
The one thing that I find with a lot of people in the fighting community that I think is really interesting is they become so really good at their craft. And we see this as a parallel between business owners, where business owners become really good at their craft, whether it's, programming, carpentry, artist, whatever it is, they become really good at the craft. But what they forget the most is that the craft is only important when you're trying to monetize on that craft, is if people actually know you. And for somebody to get known, that becomes more senior to the craft itself, because attention is senior to revenue. And so talk to me a little bit about when people are looking to get known, what are some of the good things that they can do to actually get out and get recognized?
Well, I'll answer this. It's going to piggyback on your concept, what you just shared. There are lots of people. I've been an event producer for more than 3 decades. Live stages, not virtual so much, but live stages. There are lots and lots of speakers that I've placed on the stage early years who are tremendously skilled at their area of expertise. They could be leadership experts, they could be sales experts, they could be operational experts, they may be experts in mind mapping, they might be experts in all these different categories. But if they lack a book, they lack credibility and outside social proof, they're going to be mediocre. Because you need feathers in your plumage, because you have to peacock correctly. And it's all about peacocking. How do you show that you are truly distinctive and different than your competition? What do you do other than some of your messaging? That's great. You got to work on that. It's all part of the program. Messaging is great. However, what do you do in your overall makeup, in your personal brand, to give you distinction? How unique are you? Have you been on television? Have you been a guest on multiple podcasts? Have you been on a radio show? Do you write for any print or online publications? Have you been on prestigious stages with well-recognized names or not? All of this matters, and the one with the most beautiful feathers is going to get the girl peacock, because the girl is the ugly one in the bird world. It's the male that must show his plumage and make big sounds in order to attract her.
Sorry, what was that big sound again?
Yeah, that sound draws her to look at the plumage behind and look. Then he's moving his head and his gizzle moving. All of this, making sound. They're the loudest birds in the kingdom. They make these sounds in order to then look at the plumage. She's then going to say, she's going to turn around and say, come and get it, or not. Or she's going to scurry away. So what do your feathers look like? Are they filled and comprehensive? Or are you in the sea of mediocrity, just like every other bird that's making noise, but has no feathers to back it up?
That makes a lot of sense because, for one thing, it's behind you. You still are in the forefront of importance. What
Yep.
it's doing is it's back-ending you for that proofing that you exist. Number one, it's getting the attention. And number two is when you have the attention, it's giving you elevation and authority. And
Right.
most importantly, trust. And so the idea is it's still, you have to be authentically you, but you're going to use it as a vehicle for getting that attention and then building that, social proofing, that trust, that relationship.
Well, like Steve, you had mentioned you work with a lot of startups, a lot of people who are in the beginning, the infancy stages of growing their podcast, and you provide all the back end tools, which are great. And some of them are brand new, and some have been doing it a while and then want to take it to the next level. You get those people, but how many of them have been on television? How many of them have a book and they say, well, I don't know how to. I won't even consider today putting a speaker on my platform because I produce events unless they've written a book and they've got TV. That's why I create the programs that I create, because they may be great at content, may be good at the craft of speaking, which is a skill and it's a craft. You're not a born speaker. That's BS. It's a craft that you learn by studying it, improving, getting feedback and improving, getting better and better and better. You can't get on my stage or anybody unless you got to have a book. You got to have television background verifying and confirming, double confirming that you are the shit. Because without it, you're just another speaker your feathers are dull and not attractive.
Well, absolutely. And just like fighters, a fighter could be an amazing fighter that produces, wonderful, spectacular knockouts, that wins every fight that they're put in front. They've got a lot of grit, got a lot of determination. But if nobody watches them, they're not going to get paid.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about fighters, let's talk about some of the ones, because we're both into the art and the sport, art and sport. Conor McGregor is the biggest name ever in mixed martial arts. By far has made the most amount of money because he's got feathers that go beyond any plumage out there. The guy is out there. He says outrageous stuff. Sir Richard Branson in the business arena has got lots of feathers. Now, he's a great businessman, but he knows the value of PR, exploding and talking about yourself so the media becomes interested because you are interesting. If you are interesting, you will garner attention. Conor McGregor in the fight arena, he's a loud Irishman with a beard. Is he a great martial artist? At one time, sure. He won a couple titles. I think his days are past now because he's lost the eye of the tiger. He's so frigging rich, he doesn't need it. I don't know how much money he's worth now, but it's a lot. Because he had the biggest mouth. And is there an accident to that? No. You look at Stipe Miocic as an example. He's considered the greatest heavyweight of all time. At this point, who knows what's going to happen when he fights John Jones in their upcoming match. And then I think might be the last of both of them. Who knows? But Stipe had zero charisma on camera. Zero. You could hardly understand him. He sounds like he's got marbles in his mouth when he talks. And he's a boring, great fighter. I admire him. I'm sure he's a nice person, but has got the personality of rye toast with no butter. There's he's got all those defenses. Did more. Daniel Cormier is doing commentary, who was one of his, and Daniel Cormier is celebrated martial art, obviously a great martial artist, but he's making money as a doing commentary. Why? He can talk.
Absolutely.
Even
even if you look at Miocic's doppelganger, would be say maybe something like Sean Strickland on the other end of the spectrum. So that was a guy who has the same sort of look and feel, but he just says the most outrageous things, and he just draws a lot of that negative media attention by just saying really dumb stuff. But people love hearing it, and so attention.
He's media worthy.
100%
Steve,
he is.
He's media worthy. He's interesting. They're both not handsome guys. Neither one is considered handsome. They're very average looking dudes. They're fit. They're strong. They're both exceptionally talented guys. And that's a perfect contrast you mentioned. And I love talking about this. Sean Strickland says outrageous, really dumb. He sounds like he could be from West Virginia. He's so stupid, the shit he says. Okay? Growing up in a barn, married to his sister. He's about as dumb as a stone. I hope he doesn't come knocking on my door. He would beat my ass. Okay?
That's right.
But he's about as dumb as a rock. Whereas Miocic is a smart guy. Everybody likes him that knows him. He's a gentleman. He shakes people's hands. He doesn't talk trash. He's not marketable. He has no hook other than his talent. Once he sunsets his belt, and it might be coming, could be this next match. We don't know. Hope not. Great fighter. Love watching him, but I can't understand him in the post interview. It's like, what the hell is he saying? He's got marbles in his. He needs so much work on his verbal delivery. His elocution is terrible. It's not marketable because of that, and that's fixable.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Sean Strickland speaks clearly, but it's absolute nonsense that comes out of his mouth. And Conor McGregor has got a component of cool to him. He's Irish. He says outrageous shit, but he's actually very smart. Sean Strickland is a dummy, as far as I'm concerned. He's not smart. I think he's been punched a lot.
Yeah. The one person who beat the Matrix on this whole being able to garner attention from the media, but not communicate with the media effectively, was Anderson Silva.
Yes.
Because he would never speak English, even though he could. He would never speak English. He would always speak Portuguese, but he could always garner attention.
He had charisma. He had the it factor.
Yeah.
Izzy has the it factor. He talks a lot of trash and is smart.
Mm-hmm.
He's got the it factor. Francis Ngannou, if I were to look at him, he's got charisma. He seems very likable. He's soft-spoken when he talks, a Cameroonian dude. He's got quite a story. And I know he made very good money in boxing. He could have been the biggest star in the UFC, but who knows what went on behind the scenes. I don't want to even venture to guess. It's clearly money of what he thought he was worth versus what the UFC was willing to pay him. I mean, we could probably talk about that one, a dark hole, endlessly. But the media people, the Diaz brothers, they're controversial. They talk a lot of trash. But you get some of the others. This gal Shevchenko, Valentina Shevchenko, is a talented fighter, but she's kind of boring personality-wise.
I watched her on the Contender Series. I think it's Contender Series. And Shevchenko, I think she's a beautiful fighter to watch. Just unbelievable fighter to watch.
Unbelievable,
so
technician.
Technical. And in the right light, she can be very interesting to listen to. But for the most part, the character that you think she's going to be and the character that she is two different things. It's like Ronda Rousey. The reason why Ronda Rousey did so well is she played into her role so well.
Yeah.
And so she was just really good at being Ronda until the very end where, number one, she got bad coaching. She all of a sudden became a striker. And clearly didn't work out well.
The problem with Ronda also, I could talk about that. She's a perfect example of, she had bad branding towards the end because she did it to herself. Yeah. First of all, the competition caught up to her. She was brand new. She was the top of the food chain of the old generation. But when new fighters came up who were clearly much more skilled than her, she wasn't even in the same league as Amanda Nunes. Wasn't in the same league as Cyborg. Cyborg would have crushed her. That's why she never made the fight happen. She knew that she would have been destroyed. And Holly Holm, who's now kind of passé, she's done.
Yep.
She's done. Another one that didn't manage her brand well. Could have been a superstar. And mildly attractive blonde. Ronda was pretty. She got all the deals because she was rowdy and had a good branding. She did very well for a bit. She was recognized. She was first in the female arena. And I agree with you, Steve. She tried to become a striker, and she wasn't one. She got her ears boxed twice.
The fact that she was calling out boxers, and you're thinking, you're a judo champion. Like, go and this is one of the biggest flaws I think people have when they're trying to develop themselves. It's feed the racehorses and starve the ponies. Focus on what you're good at and become so incredibly good at it so that nobody can beat you. Like one of the things that when you look at, I think it was Hoyler Gracie, no, Hodger Gracie. When
Okay.
Hodger Gracie used to go to the World Championships, he would take people down. He would then grind into a mount, and then from mount he would go and win with a cross collar. Everybody knew exactly what he was going to do. His game plan was always the same, but he never lost. Like he always won with the same technique.
Well, Ronda
people
did
couldn't
that
beat
with the armbar for a while, didn't she?
That's right, 100% she did. You know, they had a rhythm. It's like Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor, his timing is the reason why he was so good.
Yeah.
And now that he's like beefy Conor McGregor, he's not going to have the same skill at timing.
No.
He just his muscle twitch is going to be so much off. He's not going to be the same fighter that he used to be.
No, he's not.
And that was the big difference. That's what I think put him at the edge was just.
And he lost the eye of the tiger.
He lost the eye of the tiger. True.
He certainly lost that killer instinct of this hungry Irishman, you know, who's living on potatoes. I mean, he was literally on welfare, the welfare system at one time.
Yep. He was a welfare system, then a plumber, and then
then he made it. And I gave him all the credit. That's a guy that knew the value of a big mouth, much like the Gypsy King in boxing, has a big ass mouth, and he's used it to his advantage. Certainly can talk a lot.
Absolutely. He can garner attention big time. Big time. I mean, Mike Tyson, when he was on stage at GrowthCon with Grant Cardone, one of the things he said is they said, you know, when you bit off Evander's ear, you know, that cost you, you know, a few $1 million. Would you do that again? He says, well, let me tell you this. So I bit off his ear. They charged me $3 million. The amount of press that I got out of it, I got about $5 million worth of, you know, whatever. So I made $2 million. I bought off his other ear in a heartbeat.
Is that what he said?
Yeah, totally. He made money on biting his ear off. He's like, game on, let's go.
Well,
like that's a guy who you would never think that would come out what he said. That's a smart businessman. So then I look at somebody like Sean Strickland and I'm like, is it the fact that he's not intelligent or he knows the role that he needs to play to get the attention he needs?
I think he's actually not. He's in character. I think he is who he is. I don't think he's smart enough to be anybody else. I don't think he can pretend. I think Conor was well orchestrated. That guy's sharp.
Yeah, Conor.
Yeah, he's sharp. I think Anderson Silva was smart. He played his role. He stayed in his lane, and he played just like you said. He didn't speak English. He spoke Portuguese. It was mystique.
Yeah,
he sold mystique, and it was valuable. John Jones, we could talk about that. Man, he's left so many millions on the table because of his bad behavior. That was bad.
That's always such a conundrum to me because that literally he could have dwarfed any of the brands in the MMA environment if he could have just kept himself together.
So talented.
Yeah.
Incredibly talented. I mean, that guy had it all, but then you also have a squeaky clean brand like George St. Pierre. I mean, I'm sure he did well financially up in Canada. He's Canadian, right? He's out of Montreal. He's a Frenchie.
Yeah. Yep.
French.
Yeah, he trained under Frost Hobby, and Frost Hobby got his black belt from Henzo.
Okay.
Henzo Gracie, and Henzo Gracie is the one who gave my black belt, Pat Cooligan, his black belt, and I'm underneath Pat. Yeah.
Got it. So I mean, you know, it's interesting, guys. I love talking about the fighters. The one who I really
I skipped a person. It was Frost Hobby got his black belt from John Danaher, and John Danaher got his black belt from Henzo Gracie. That's how.
Okay. Yeah. That's the lineage. Yeah. Well, I got my sixth Dan from Chuck Norris's student, Bob Wall. Bob Wall got his black belt from Chuck Norris. Chuck is my certificate for my sixth Dan at the top. But Bob has passed now for 2 years. And, you know, it was all about lineage. And both Chuck and Bob are black belts under Gene LaBelle.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, both. Oh,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And then Chuck got his black belt under the Machado brothers.
Yeah, I think I knew that. And
yes.
Chuck was actually one of those most interesting people because he would go into a lot of different styles, different styles.
Yeah.
And just see what the style had to offer. It seemed he seemed like a really good dude from that perspective.
He was a good guy. Everybody liked Chuck Norris. I mean, he was at my first yellow belt testing, and then he was in transition to sell the school to Jun Chong, who was my eventual Taekwondo master. And that was the lineage.
Now, my understanding though is your lineage is a dubious lineage because apparently, they're the bad actors in a movie. Is that not correct?
Yes. I did a movie called Ninja Turf back in 1982. I think it was 82, where I was in 2 fight scenes. It was the worst movie ever made. If there was B-, it was available. It had a 0 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Nice.
And I did 2 scenes with that. With Philip Ree was one of the actors in that. Bill Wallace was in that movie. And George Chung was in that movie. These are well-known martial artists from the 70s and 80s. Bill Wallace was one of my instructors as well. Taught me some very exceptional kicking skills. Bill did. And in that movie, Philip Ree, who ended up creating that series of Best of the Best martial arts movies. I don't know if you ever saw those.
That was Philip.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, Philip was my instructor under Jun Chung.
Cool.
Jun Chung was his uncle. So that's where it started. And then Philip and Simon Ree, who was in Universal Soldier, was his nemesis in the movie of Best of the Best. And they're both exceptional martial artists. I will say that. Exceptional. Also, I don't know if you saw the movie, what's it called? Karate Kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was an actor in that who's the only true martial artist in the whole trilogy of movies, and now that Cobra Kai series, a fellow named Thomas Griffiths. He was a black belt at the school that I studied at under Jun Chung. He was Terry Silver, the guy with the ponytail, if you ever saw that.
Oh,
movie.
yes. Yeah,
that's
totally.
Thomas. That's Thomas. Tall guy.
No way.
We used to spar all the time. Solid martial artist.
Who is better?
Who?
Who is better?
Between who?
You and him.
I'm not going to say on camera. He's a friend. Let's just say I competed.
But if you're going to, what would you say?
Well, let's just say I competed and he didn't.
There you go. That's
okay.
A good answer.
He's a talented guy. He's a friend. I saw him last year at our 50th anniversary of the school. You know, Jun Chung had his 50th anniversary of opening the school when he started it in 1973, and I was a member back then. And Thomas was there, and we sat and talked and everything. So would he, he might kick my butt today, but when I was in my prime, you got to understand, I was competitive and he wasn't.
Yeah.
Whole different level of commitment. I was working out 3 to 4 hours a day. He was a solid martial artist. That's all I'm going to say. I have nothing but respect for him, and I like him. He's a nice guy. But
you're challenging him to a duel, but to the death now is what you said.
I would crumble. I just don't have that. But Thomas was very solid. He's a good martial artist and solid. And in that series, he's the only one that's a true martial artist. I asked him about that. I said, any of these guys know anything? He said, well, they tried to bring in a stunt double for me, and I just ended up doing my own stunts. He said, the guy wasn't even any good. And like I said, Thomas is solid. He's a legitimate quality black belt. I'm saying this on record. It's public. And I'd say it to his face. Who would win in a fight back when we were both in our prime? That's a different discussion from 35 years ago.
What I find interesting right now is there's a whole focus from the executive in a lot of different businesses to really inculcate martial arts into the executive team. You look at stuff that Zuckerberg is doing. You
Jiu-jitsu,
look at Yeah, and he trained with Michael Messamecki. He trained with obviously Lex Friedman. He's been training with a lot of pretty good elevated people. And I think he trains with George St. Pierre too, if I'm wrong, maybe. But there's a whole list of people who are getting into martial arts right now. Even in the Hollywood scene, we've got a lot of Tom Hardy. You've got
he's a black belt, isn't he?
I don't know if he's a black belt yet. Okay. I think he's a blue. Last time I looked, he was blue. Yeah, but he looks like he was pretty good. I've watched a couple of his matches. He's getting pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, he's doing pretty good. Same thing with Neo. What's his name?
Yes.
What is his name? John Wick.
Is he jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, he's jiu-jitsu as well. I think he's purple. Yeah.
Oh, good for him. Oh, yeah, I know Neo. That's funny. You mentioned that. I'll think of his name in a second. With Sandra Bullock, he was also in that movie. Yeah, we'll have to come up with his name in a minute. But he's a martial artist.
Drop it in the chat. Yeah,
that's funny. And I know Rocket Man, Wing Chun. He studied Wing Chun.
Oh, really?
Rocket Man. Is it Rocket or Rocket Man? I think it's
Elton John.
No, not Rocket Man. What's the Iron Man? Sorry.
Oh, Iron Man.
Iron Man.
Yeah.
He studied Wing Chun for years. I remember reading about that.
He went through a whole. It's so funny looking at his metamorphosis. And that one speech he gave, where he gave such accolades to Mel Gibson for really supporting him through his transition, was probably one of the most moving speeches to listen to.
Yes,
and you
I
could
saw
see when you saw the look on Mel Gibson's face, it was one of those just amazing things. It was like when I was looking at, there's a guy by the name of Brandon Dawson. Actually, you're very similar in your mannerisms to Brandon Dawson, believe it or not. Look him up.
Okay.
And he's your doppelganger.
Okay.
When Brandon Dawson was on stage at GrowthCon, and John Maxwell was there, he came on stage and said, when you first joined into our community, you came to all these events, and and one thing that he always did was take notes and all this other stuff. And you always made notes about my cue cards. And so what he did is he said, this very first time you're here, now, it was almost like a passing of the torch. He said, here's the cue cards from the date in which you were there. And he gave him the cue cards from that moment. And you could see, like, it was just this, like, such emotional moment between those two. It was just an amazing thing to see, that sort of passing of the torch that happens from mentor to student.
Wow. That's cool. Yeah, but there are a few of those Hollywood people that are into the martial arts. I remember in my class when I had my yellow belt, there was a fellow that was in what was that Michael J. Fox movie? What were those series called?
Oh,
Back to the Future.
Okay, Back to the Future. Yeah.
And the fellow that was his nemesis, the big blonde guy, Tom, his name was Tom
Butch or whatever his name was.
Biff.
Biff. Yeah, Biff.
Biff studied at the Taekwondo school I belonged to.
Really?
Biff was there. He was the world's nicest. Tom something is his last name. Really nice guy. Really nice guy. He studied martial arts at the school, and then a very well-named person who was a solid martial artist who came from the ballet, Ron Reagan Jr., who was President Ronald Reagan's son, was there at the school. I'll tell you a funny story. I was teaching this class. Ron was in the class that I was teaching. It was an afternoon class. And there was one of the lady black belts got beat up by one of the guys. Every 3 minutes you move around and you spar a different person. So we were going around and around, and I was teaching the class, and she looked like she was in tears. The guy that she had been sparring was being a little rough with her. She was a 110-pound woman, and he was a 200-pound guy. He was a lower belt than her, but he still walloped her unnecessarily. She was just, she just got her black belt, and he thought, okay, I'm going to tee off on her because she's a black belt, but she's still a 100-pound person. Just was unnecessary bullying. And I said, and then we spun around, and I said, step aside. So then I inserted myself into the circle, and I went off on this guy, and I just walloped him. I kicked him in the face right off, just knocked him down, did a spinning back kick into his gut, knocked him down again. And then he came at me, got real upset, and I reverse punched him, knocked him down again the third time. And then he jumped and tackled me. Then he tackled me, which was not part of Taekwondo training.
No, it doesn't seem like that's a
component to it.
No,
there's no kicking to the legs. It's a sport. But I kicked him in the face, which is in our rules, kicked him in the stomach, knocked him down, and I punched him and knocked him down because he was bullying this woman. Well, then he got on top of me. He tackled me unexpectedly. He got enraged because I beat his ass. And, well, come to find out, he was a Secret Service agent for Ronald Reagan, who was in the class. And I think he maybe went back to Vietnam.
Oh,
yeah, he flipped because he was getting his ass beat. And then I grabbed him. He tried to elbow me in the face. This was long before MMA, but I caught it in time, and I was very strong back then, super yoked, spun him over, and then I pushed his face down with my hand and then cocked. And I said, "Are you done?" And then he stopped. I was a freaking Secret Service agent. He snapped. I guess they all have a side, but he was being a bully, so I had to whoop him.
But that happens in a lot of gyms. I mean, we have a lot of young kids that come in and they see the old guy, and the first thing they do is they target you, and they want to show that, who's boss. And when they don't, then they get even more freakishly out of control.
Mm-hmm.
We call it that spazzy white belt syndrome.
Right.
And they just get spazzy, and you just realize, okay, well, as long as I can weather this storm, I have to weather it for what? A minute, 2 minutes, whatever. And then you're done now. Now I can implement my game plan. And because you've used emotions where I've used systems and models.
Sure.
And my systems and models will always win.
Cool.
Now, the one thing that I found interesting about the chat on Israel Adesanya, on Ronald Reagan, on any of these different people that we're talking about, the one uniform thing is we all know who they are. Conor McGregor.
Yep.
We know who they are. And that's because they've been on television. And that's one of those utopias that people as soon as they start trying to garner attention, that utopian state where they want to get to. Now, I know you work with people to help them get on television. And in order to get them on television, you use I think it's getinterviewedguaranteed.com.
Correct.
Is the website. So getinterviewedguaranteed.com. And with that, that's where people can, is that a starting point for them to get on television, or they have precursors they need to do in order to get on television? What's the mode to do on that?
The people I interview are either startups, people that are very serious about taking their brand to the next level. They're ready, they're willing, and they're teachable, because nobody goes on TV unless I vet them, because I have relationships with the 4 major networks here in Las Vegas: ABC, NBC, ABC, CBS, and the CW are here in Las Vegas. There's also Fox. I rarely work with them because they're a little bit persnickety about putting guests on. Sometimes I do. But the 4 I can work with, I can guarantee them coverage on those networks. Guaranteed. Something.
And how long of a time?
It takes about 3 weeks from when they use a deposit. They pay the deposit with me. Then we get on and we start training you, getting you ready, and I get you booked. And then by the time the TV comes around, you are ready. We've rehearsed. We've eliminated all the ums. You get to realize, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. You need to listen more than you talk, because you only have 2.5 minutes to 4 minutes during your interview. That's standard. Depending on the station, depending on the show, you need to know when to stop talking. And we rehearse that. I also have my own show that broadcasts on NBC called Amazing Authorities. That's a 30-minute show. But to get ready for a shorter show, you need training. You need vetting. You need to speak in sound bites. You need to be very clear with your message. You need to answer your questions concisely, and then shut up and let the professional broadcast journalist ask questions to go down the right vertical if necessary. They do this all day, every day. And it's not the same as a podcast host. They are at a much higher level most of the time. Not all the time. There are great podcast hosts, such as you. We're having a conversation. They'll do that. We don't have the limit with a podcast that a television station does. They've got hundreds of millions of dollars in branding into it. They know exactly the science of how much time they can talk with a guest. They wrap it up and move it on. They got to cut to commercial. Then the set moves and they move to the next guest.
Absolutely.
In NBC studio or CBS, which is Channel 8 here, they have 4 sets. They have 2 camera crews. They spin the cameras. They're on robotic legs. They turn, and 3 of them. And these things are hundreds of thousands of dollars. Big cameras. They're not an iPhone. They spin, and then it goes to the next set. Then it spins to the next set. And then they got to cut to commercial. It's a science. There isn't latitude. When you're on live TV, there is no retake. And if you don't perform correctly, you get to go home. I get to live here. My reputation's at stake. I don't put anybody on TV unless they go through my training. Full stop. Just not negotiable. It's a must-have. You must get your yellow belt before you go on to your next belt. And they got to get cleaned up. I don't care. I've done 100 podcasts. Not the same. It's not. Just like the martial arts. I'm a 6-degree black belt in Taekwondo, but if I go and get on the mat with somebody like you or somebody else who's been doing jiu-jitsu for a year, all of that is worthless. My striking is absolutely worthless on the ground. Your podcast interviews are worthless when it comes to TV. Completely different platform. You got to respect it. It's a different art.
Totally agree with that.
There's grappling and there's striking. Like you're doing also the Muay Thai. That's close. That's very similar to what it's standing up, striking, and then you let go, or maybe you do some sweeps. But the TV is the ultimate credibility and the most difficult to do correctly.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good evolution coming out of the podcast
Exactly.
environment.
It's the ascension
Is
model.
is you spend time here, then you spend time. It's just like a lot of UFC fighters; they'll spend time in the ring, and then they spend time behind the camera in Hollywood. And I think there's been a lot of good ascensions in that space as well. And I think it's a really good logical order for them too. The most important thing I think is what we've come out of today. Number one, follow systems and models. Number two, find somebody who's done it before who can mentor you on the process. And number three is really attention is senior to everything. Attention is the new currency, and you need to garner it in order to find success in your business.
You got it, Steve.
Mitch, it's been an absolute pleasure. And guys, to get a hold of Mitch again, getinterviewedguaranteed.com is the spot to go. And guys, this is the money. This is the mindset. This is the mentoring podcast. We'll see you on the next one.